What's up everyone? In today's video, I'm going to show how you can finalize your Photoshop files so they're ready to be screen printed. I'll have tips on cleaning things up, getting rid of what you don't need, and reducing the overall file size. Let's go. What's up everyone? So first of all, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. This channel is growing way faster than I could have ever imagined, so that's been really cool to see, and I only have you guys to thank for that. So thank you so much for being here. If you are not already subscribed, be sure to subscribe to this channel. I'm dropping new videos every single week having to do with t-shirt designs, a lot of bootleg rap stuff, a lot of just general design knowledge, specifically Photoshop stuff. Is going down on this channel, so be sure to subscribe. Okay, so today's video, basically, I'm gonna show you guys some edit files of approved designs that have, been printed. They're out there in the real world. They're in stores, things like that. But I'm basically gonna show you like a behind the scenes look of what the file looks like before I go ahead and finalize everything so it's ready to be screen printed. So if you're at the point where you've got your design ready to go, you're not really sure what the next step is, you don't know what screen printers need in terms of design files, that's what we're gonna cover today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is a design that I did a couple years ago for Snoop Dogg. It ended up in Kohl's. It is currently sold out because all my shit sells out. And it gets 5-star reviews. This woman here gave it 5 stars. She's wearing it there. Pretty dope. Gets so many compliments when I wore it to the Snoop Dogg concert. Fits perfectly. You know how I do. So, I'm gonna show you guys this file inside Photoshop right now. So here it is. This is with all of its beautiful, unlabeled layers, total mess, right? So this is basically when I was to the point where I was done with the design, I was ready to mock it up, but I hadn't yet finalized the artwork, right? So if this is where you guys are, these are the steps that I would take to finalize the artwork so that it's ready to go, ready to be screen printed. So the first thing I would do is start grouping together any layers where you can and separating the colors. Now, this can only be done with graphics that are solid colors, right? So like the text, but it can't really be done for the photo elements, the background elements, or anything like that. So first thing I'm gonna do is grab, my computer's gonna think about it for a second. Cool, it just disappeared. Okay, so these graphics down here, this doggy dog text, they're using all the same colors. So in theory, we would be able to group them all together and just pull out the 2 colors. Technically, in this case, 3 colors because there is black here as well with the stroke. So I'm gonna rasterize all the type. The other thing that does is that you see these little caution symbols. That basically means that right now I don't have this font installed. So at some point, I think when I upgraded to Catalina, I had some weird shit happen and I no longer have this font on my computer. It wouldn't be a big deal, if I wanted to edit this, I would just jump on DeFont or Google for this font or whatever, and I can keep editing. But that's most likely gonna be the case for whatever screen printer you send your design to. You shouldn't bank on the fact that they're gonna have whatever font you're using already installed on their computer. So what this can lead to, and most screen printers are gonna catch this before it happens, but if for some reason they're messing around with this file, they can accidentally change the font to something else. Like it can just go to like a default. If this is an extreme example because this is like a script font, so they probably wouldn't notice, but like if this dialog box comes up and for whatever reason, maybe they're brand new to Photoshop and they don't know what's going on and they click OK, it might accidentally change to Myriad, just like the most basic default font. So like I said, that's kind of an extreme example, but I mean, if it was this, and if this was like Arial or like Helvetica or something that's close to Myriad and accidentally gets, you know, changed in the process of them separating the colors for screen printing, it will be a disaster and you'll be really pissed off when you get your t-shirts and the font is different. So the remedy for that, if it's a design that's already set up, you know, with the right dimensions, see this one is already at 15 width, the height is, you know, close to 17 inches, so resolution 300, we're good there. I would just go ahead and rasterize the type so that there's no way that they can even edit it at this point. It's just basically, you know, it's a rasterized graphic. It's no different than, you know, a photo or any element like that they can't really change. So the next thing I would do is just get rid of any layers that aren't being used. So this was, you know, probably a different font or something that I used or something else. Regardless, it's not being used now, so we can just delete it. So this is the dog text, this is doggy. Because the same colors are being used, I'm just gonna merge them together, and then I'm gonna use the magic wand tool with anti-alias checked up here. And basically that's going to grab all colors that are related to wherever I click. So if contiguous is clicked, it's only gonna grab one element, you know, where it's not connected to any of the same color basically. So like, for example, if I click here, it's gonna grab all of that text because it's all connected. There's no separation between it. So if we don't have that clicked at the top, it'll grab all instances of this like mustard yellow color, right? So we get it down here, over here. And what I'm basically gonna do now is just pop all of this yellow to the top by doing Command J. That basically duplicates all of what was selected. So now we just have all the yellow right here, ready to go. So then we can do the same thing on this red color. It's just gonna be that. Command J, pop it to the top. And then here we're gonna have to zoom in a little bit so we can make sure we get this. But there's this black stroke that's, you know, throughout all of the text. So then we'll just throw that to the top too. Now we can delete this original graphic. And so all we're left with is mustard yellow. We'll just call this red and black. So I'm basically making this tutorial more so for beginners and maybe those who are not necessarily you know, working within the professional merchandising industry. If you were working in the industry, you would know that you would want to label these with specific Pantone colors. In my experience, it's best to just leave that up to the screen printers and the expertise of whoever's doing the color separations. So I would honestly, like, it's just a courtesy, you know, if you want to just label these with general, you know, colors so they can really quick just like look at it and see what's going on. The other thing with this is, you know how you can see here that there's like basically, for lack of a better term, like residue left over from other colors. That's from just pulling off just the black, and you know, because the tolerance was set to 32 and for a variety of reasons it pulls off other colors, right? So the easy fix for that is just double clicking on your layer if this does happen, and just doing a color overlay with black so that it automatically makes all of those different color values straight black. And then you see it doesn't really happen with the other colors, but you know, you'll run into that every once in a while. So yeah, like I said, you don't necessarily have to get into the Pantone stuff if you're just, you know, doing this for a clothing line or personal stuff and you're setting it up to print, it's just a nice courtesy to label your layers according to, you know, whatever colors they are. So from here, just for the sake of, you know, being organized, you can grab all of these layers. I'm doing Command G, that's gonna make them a new group. And then I'm just gonna label the group doggy dog text. So, you know, they'll be able to quickly see that's what that is. This I think is, yeah, so in this group, let's see, we can first start by getting rid of stuff back. I don't know why it says that, who knows. Get rid of the layers that are not being used. This is a case where you don't want to merge anything because there's drop shadows. So whenever there's drop shadows involved, they are, and by they I mean whoever's doing the color separations at the screen printing company, they're most likely going to have their own process for dealing with things like drop shadows. So it'll most likely be some sort of you know, halftone process or something like that. So in this case, you can definitely still rasterize the type so that it doesn't get changed accidentally. But in this case, with the drop shadow, I would just leave this as the group, don't merge anything, and then I would just name this group, you know, just name it money text. Okay, so let's keep moving on. This is the photo element, and here you can see this is the original photo that was edited a bunch. You know, it was used, some selective color was used on this. If you're watching this and you haven't seen my video on using selective color for photos, you know, you can see how big of a difference this makes. So I'll just throw up a little graphic here so you can click and watch that video if you haven't already. It's basically a process that will change your full color photos like this into more like colorized, you know, saturated, desaturated, you know, whatever sort of bootleg looking graphics. So we can just get rid of this original photo because we're not going to need it. And this has a gradient on it, so we don't want to flatten it or do anything like that. And then I'm just going to rename it Snoop Photo. Okay. This looks like it's probably a cover-up layer. Oh no, it's the money layer. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is basically a black and white image. They're gonna end up, you know, probably merging the fence layer in the background with the money layer. Maybe it looks like they're similar colors. But with that, there's no effects going on whatsoever. It's literally, I think, just a black and white image. So we can just rename it, you know, money. This, let's see what's going on in this. All right, so this was basically just a bullshit layer that I was messing around with, and I kept around, you know, basically, because it looks like what it is where I cut out the image. So you can see, like, this is that process that I show you guys in the original, actually Snoop Dogg bootleg rap video that I made that shows you guys how to do this. So just showing you, this is actually the same process I've been using for years, so it really is how I do it. So we don't need that at all, so we're just gonna get rid of it. Here we've got the Snoop background text, and since his head is going over it, we gotta make sure we keep it in the background. We're gonna do the same thing where we rasterize the type, and then we're gonna merge it together just like we did with this doggy dog text. So I'll just go ahead and merge these. Click the red, Command J, pop that off. Click the yellow, pop that off. And then zoom in so we can grab the black, pop that off. Right? So same thing, rename them, black, mustard, red. I think I called it mustard yellow. Gotta get that OCD taken care of. And then it's already in a group, so we'll just name that Snoop text. And then this background, I think is just that fence image. Same thing with the money, there's no effects on it. So all we have to do is rename it, and boom, I mean, that's basically it. If you want to rename, this is the texture layer. It's super important. I've found over the years of doing, especially vintage stuff, that you keep the keep the texture layer on its own, because if you try to, you know, if I were to, let's see if I can show you guys how I do this. All right, so hypothetically, if I wasn't using a layer mask and I just had a layer of like texture over this, and I tried to like knock out the texture, oops. Here. This is like amateur hour. If you try to like knock it out of the photo and like knock it out of the money, like so that you can see now like it's got the texture knocked out. See, this is the top layer, so you can see the texture is knocked out of the graphic. It's gonna be a nightmare for whoever is printing the shirt, because it's going to create all these little small pockets of ink that are going to be just very hard to print. And B, if for whatever reason, if you're doing this for a client or, you know, a company, whoever it is, I guess a company would be a client, but what I'm saying is if you're doing this for someone else and this is becoming their design at the end of the day and it's no longer yours, there might come a time when they want to print this with no texture. Or maybe they'll get it and they'll decide right off the bat, it looks better clean, we're gonna keep it clean. Let's look at this. I mean, yeah, they kept the texture on it. But yeah, my point is make sure to use the layer masks and don't flatten the image, you know, don't basically the goal at the end of the day with finalizing artwork is you want to break everything down to the absolute essentials, and you want to have as many layers as possible without having huge file sizes. Like, I mean, there are definitely some screen printers who will probably want, you know, all these different layers, and maybe even don't care if there's you know, layers that aren't being used. But in my opinion, for the sake of being organized, for the sake of you know, just as a courtesy to whoever's printing the design and downloading it, you want to be super concise and make sure that your files are as condensed as possible. So with this top layer, I'm just gonna rename it as the name of the file, so they know this is the final version. So Snoop Doggy Dogg, money, final, boom, and that's it. So from here, you know, you would just save this as a PSD. You know, I would label it like Snoop Dogg, you know, -money _ final or something like that, so that they know this is the final design. If you want to go a step further, and this is completely up to you, you know, say if you were still using this canvas at 25 inches in height, so it was a lot bigger, you know, yeah, let's just change it now so you guys can see what I would do. So if you were still using, you know, what I always use for canvases, which is 15 by 25, when you were done with the design, it would look like this. And all of this extra space is going to increase the file size. So since it's not necessary, you can go to Image, Trim, and it'll basically just trim the entire canvas down to the essentials of what's being printed. So yeah, that's a really important step. And you can see, like, if you look at the file size, it goes from almost 100, whoops, redo fill. Okay, it goes from almost 100 megabytes to, let's see what happens when we trim it, to 50. So it literally cuts the file size in half. So yeah, I mean, that's just something that's going to increase the upload speed, increase the download speed, and just overall make it look more professional and finalized. So this is graphic number 1 that I want to show you guys. which is a little bit more intense, you know, because there are so many different layers. But as you can see, now it's condensed down to, what, 6 layers? So that's pretty good for a graphic like this. So the next thing I'm gonna show you guys is a graphic that's way more simplistic. This is one that I did for Led Zeppelin. This one looks like it's still for sale in their store. I did this, I think last summer. It was for their, the 50-year anniversary of their Led Zeppelin 75 tour. So I'll show you guys the graphic as it was, you know, when I was basically done with it and ready to finalize. So as you can see, same thing here, man. Lots of bullshit, different layers of, you know, experimenting and duplicating layers so that I could go back to them later if I needed to. Just lots of, you know, messing around and getting the graphic to where I want it. So the difference between a graphic like this and a graphic like the Snoop Dogg design is that this has no real photographic elements. These are, for the most part, almost down to the pixel, right? So you see me zooming in, there's no, you know, really different values. If it's cream one place, it's cream somewhere else. You know, it's orange here, orange here. This is a very simple 2-color design. So when you're dealing with this sort of stuff, you can treat it exactly like we did with the Snoop Dogg text in the previous example. So you could basically just merge all of this together, literally just merge all of your layers from top to bottom with the exception of your text group. And I'm just gonna rasterize it, so that's gonna make sure if there was any text, it gets rasterized. And then I'm just gonna merge them all together. Some of these graphics, you can see they're not absolutely down to the pixel. It's still a little bit soft. So I would just make sure anti-alias at the top is checked. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing we did before. Grab all the cream here, grab all the kind of burnt orange color there, and then just get rid of the background layer. So now we're just down to these 2 layers. We'll just call this burnt orange, call this cream, call this Led Zeppelin US Tour 1975 final. Boom. Do our little trim of the canvas, and that is it. So you can see, like, if you have designs that are, you know, maybe a little bit more illustrated or more simple, you use maybe the stamp effect, threshold, anything like that. Anything that's going to, you know, create graphics that are very simplistic in nature and might be just a few colors. Maybe it's 1 color, you know, if you wanted to. That's the other thing too. This is super easy to edit now. You could, so you can make this 1 color design really quickly. But yeah, this is basically the most simple way to finalize artwork that is simple. So I just wanted to show you guys that, just so you see, you know, there are different methods of finalizing artwork depending on the style that it's in. So let's move on to our third and final example. Okay, so I definitely wanted to make a point to show you guys something that was a little bit more in line with my original bootleg rap tutorial, where I'm doing the colorization of photos. So if I was going to have this printed, the first thing I would do is, I can see here that for some reason a mask was not used. A layer mask wasn't used for this texture. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit Command A so I can grab all the texture from this layer, and then group everything together, Command G, click Add Layer Mask, hold down the Option key, click this white box, Command V is going to drop in the texture that was used here. And that looks kind of weird. What happened there? Let's see what happened. All right. think about it. All right, guys, sorry about that. I had to do a force quit on Photoshop because it was just frozen. I had no idea what caused that, and it happens every once in a while. So if that is something that has happened to you, you know, I just want to let you guys know that it still happens to me sometimes too. So I'm right there with you. So yeah, basically what I was saying is, for whatever reason, a layer mask wasn't used on this design for the texture. So I'm basically just going to grab all of this, Command A, and then Command Copy, and then group everything together. And then down here, click this little folder. It's not a folder, it's just a rectangle with a circle, and that's going to create this mask. And then hold down the Option key, click the white box that brings us inside the clipping mask. Command V is going to paste our texture into the clipping mask. Hold down Option, click the thumbnail here, and now we're out of it and we have our texture, and then we can get rid of this layer here. So from here, we basically just want to go through the same process as we did in our two other examples. We're just gonna run through these layers and see what's going on, see what we can clean up. Here it looks like there's some effects going on with both of these text layers, so we're just gonna rasterize the type, and we're gonna rename the group Kings of Rock. I'm going to click this little arrow here so that it just sort of cleans up the layer, so it just shows the text. It doesn't show any of the effects or anything, just for the sake of being organized. This, I believe, is like a cover-up layer. Yeah, I had to cover up the Kangol logos in this design. That's something that you have to do every once in a while. You know, a band member, you know, in a promo photo is wearing some random brand, and it's basically just becomes like a endorsement for, you know, something else besides the band. So sometimes you have to cover those things up. The Adidas in this case didn't need to be covered up because, you know, obviously like Run DMC literally has a song called My Adidas, so they're pretty strongly linked to that brand, so it wasn't really necessary. Anyways, I'm just gonna name this cover up. Let's see what this is. This is the run text. So same thing, I'm just gonna rasterize all of these, click these little arrows so that it will clean them up. We don't really need to rename those, and then we'll just rename the group itself Run Text. And here I'll put Kings of Rock. Kings of Rock text. This looks like a little cover-up layer as well on the side, yeah. So that's just something that comes with, you know, the editing process and making little tweaks. So we can leave that in there. There's no reason to like try to, you know, erase the photo or anything like that. It's totally fine to just leave that. This, okay, that's the big DMC text. So let's go in here, rasterize the type, click these little arrows, whoops, and rename this DMC, not CMD. Got that. Okay. And this, what do we got here? More cover up. Looks like these layers, this layer is literally not doing anything, so we're gonna just get rid of it. Another cover up. And you can't just like bring the cover up layers together because they're obviously meant to like cover up certain things that are in different layers. So like if I merged all these to the front, you would see like black over this text, and we don't want that. So now we're getting into the photo. I believe this is like the main photo element, so let's just call it main photo. Got an outer glow on it. So here, these are all of the color fill layers that we used, just like in my original Snoop Dogg bootleg rap tutorial. I used that same process here of coloring in a black and white photo. So we're just gonna go through and just, you know, name these according to the colors. So there's blue and Chase jacket. What's this? This is the gold. This is for the chains. This is the skin tones, brown. So we've got all those. This we can just name, let's call it BW Photo. It's like there's a little inner glow effect on it. Hit the arrow there. We can get rid of, this is the original full color photo. So we can just click delete and get rid of that. This, I believe, is the background image. Yep. So there's a color overlay that's being applied to both of these photos. Looks like I was probably just editing this, so I kept them separate. But we can merge them together here just to condense the file size a little bit more. Just rename this background photo. Rename the group background photo 2. Now technically, if I want to go even deeper on this, you don't even need a group because it is just one photo. There's not like separate layers. So let's just look at what's going on here. Okay, so there's a color overlay, this blue color. So I'm just gonna do command copy and grab this color value or hex value. Command C. And then I'm going to just ungroup this. So now we're gonna see it turn black and white. And then we'll just apply the same color overlay. So it should just copy it, yeah. So there, that just, again, condensed it a little more. Probably very, very little because it was all the difference was is it was in a group before. So, you know, that might seem a little bit silly, but, you know, I just like to be real organized with this shit. So, and we'll just name this background photo. And the main photo we can bring up into this group. So there, you can see now, everything's nicely organized. The screen printer is gonna love me when they get this file. They're gonna give me, you know, obviously 50% discount. Just kidding, but I've definitely gotten some nice words said about my finalized artwork because having been on the other side of things and seen some of the quote unquote final artwork that is sent to screen printers, it can be a fucking disaster over here with like tons of layers that are not being used. The file sizes are like fucking over a gigabyte, like really dumb stuff that could be easily fixed if you just, you know, spend 5 minutes and just put this work in. So we can just name this top group Run DMC Kings of Rock Final. And then of course we'll go through and trim it, and we'll go from 100 over here, 100 megabytes to, let's see what that drops it down to. And it says merge in layers, but it's not merging anything. So, okay, didn't drop it at all, and I don't know why. Oh wait, yeah, it did, 60, cool, okay. Yeah, that was about to be really weird. I was like, that makes no sense. Anyways, all right, so that is it for today's video. Hopefully this helped you understand, you know, the importance of kind of going through and just cleaning up your files, making sure they're ready to be screen printed, not only for you know, the sake of being courteous to the screen printer, but also just for your own organization. It's just a good habit to get into. You don't necessarily have to get into the habit of, you know, naming layers as you're designing, as you're editing. It's not really important. The most important thing is to sort of just prepare the artwork so that it's ready to go, ready to be screen printed, ready to be brought into the real world. So that is it for today. Thank you guys again for being here. Thank you to all of the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. I'm doing my best to drop new videos every single week. And like I said before, this channel is growing way faster than I would have ever imagined. So thank you guys for that. Be sure to follow me on Instagram as well, because I'm showcasing some you know, old designs that I've done, anything that's new and approved, and there's a lot of stuff that I can't post just because it's either still pending or it's been approved but it's not out in the real world because, well, for one, no bands are touring, so that's usually a big you know, a big way that I get to see my artwork is I'll go on Instagram and do hashtag, you know, so-and-so tour and see it out there on fans wearing it at shows, and that really sucks. I don't get to see that right now, so yeah, there's tons of stuff that I just can't post, but I'm doing my best to, you know, show you guys some old work and old stuff that maybe got left on the cutting room floor, or you know, was approved and I haven't posted it yet, whatever, stuff like that. So if that seems cool to you, follow me on Instagram at fuller.moe. You can also, it's the easiest way to talk to me also. If you have questions, if you want to show me, you know, some design stuff that you have done that was, you know, from watching my videos, it's techniques that you've learned, or, you know, if you bought any of my style packs or the selected color pack or the textures, and you just want to drop me a line and say, hey, you know, I bought this and thank you. I've gotten a ton of messages like that, and it's so awesome. I really appreciate hearing from you guys and you guys supporting me in any way at all. So thank you guys. That is it for today. Be safe.